Hey guys, this is Dave Kristen here, race director of IRONMAN Boulder, and this video specifically is for bike aid stations. Wanted to give you guys as much information ahead of time so you can be successful. So we're going to run through everything that you need to know here quickly and carefully, and then on the captain's meeting you can ask more questions. Let's first start with the captain's meeting. It is imperative that you are all there. That is where we connect you with our staff members that are going to be working with you, our bike course team that'll be out there. So you guys can communicate any issues or any concerns that you have as you're going into it. You're not, your best bet to get information that you need is to reach out to these people and not Lindsay, our volunteer director, anymore. Once you connect with our staff, reach out to them every time you have information, so make sure you have their cell phone number or email address before you leave the captain's meeting. At the captain's meeting, we give you everything that you need to know in terms of information, in terms of how to communicate to our command center as well. Next up, once you've done all your prep work and things like that, the first objective for you on race week is to pick up your aid station truck. It's a 24-foot box truck. It's a moving truck, if you can think about it that way. If you're not comfortable driving one, make sure that you have somebody on your team that is. And they'll pick up that aid station truck per the instructions that you receive at the captain's meeting. We'll give you the location and the time of day on Saturday, the day before the race, to pick up that aid station truck. You'll take that with you, and you can leave it at your house or somewhere safe, as long as it's not in an area of danger. Inside the aid station trucks is everything that you need to be successful on race day. We're going to have all of your products, so that's all your water, all of your Gatorade, and items like that. You're going to have all of your goo, as well as your Cliff Bars, and fruit, like bananas, and trash bags, and a first aid kit, rubber gloves, and everything that you're going to need to be successful. One of the first things I suggest to people that are managing aid stations is don't empty your truck first thing in the morning. Make sure that you only take out what you need to get started and feed it throughout the day. Add more as you go along. Dedicate some people on your team just to filling up behind the tables at the aid stations, but don't empty your truck all at once. Don't break open a pallet or a case unless you need to. So don't start emptying your truck, because eventually you're going to have to put all that stuff back in that's not used. So save yourself some work at the end. The bike course is fairly simple. It is a 2-loop course with an additional loop at the end to get us to 112 miles. If you look at the map that you have here, or if you look at our website, there's a red line that creates a loop that's just north of the Boulder Reservoir. That the athletes will do twice. 4 of you aid stations will be on that loop, and you'll get hit twice by each loop by the athlete coming through. Then there's a blue loop, and 2 of you aid stations are on the blue loop. And before you think that the guys on the first loop have it better or have it worse off than you guys, and you guys got the good aid stations, you're actually out there a lot longer. So keep that in mind. It all works out in the end. They get hit twice, but you're out there for a little bit longer on race day. But I'm going to talk through the locations, the actual physical locations, and where to park next. Let's start with aid station number 1. Aid station 1 is located on 63rd, just north of the road called Oxford, right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch to Google Maps. Here's Niwot Road, here's 63rd. I'm going to zoom in here on this road, which is Oxford. And just to the right side is where Oxford turns into a dirt road. This is where I want your volunteers to park. But your aid station will actually be out here on 63rd. Just up here you'll park your truck, and that's where your porta potties and the ice will be stacked up before you even get there. Next up is aid station number 2. You'll see this is located just off of Nelson Road, just before you get to Highway 36. It's going to be on the right side of the road, on the what would be the westbound side of the road, just before you get to Highway 36 at the very, very top of the hill. I'm going to switch to Google Maps version. If you zoom in, this is Highway 36, and this is Nelson Road. As you zoom in, right before Nelson Road, there's a big dirt pull-off, and this is a great spot for your volunteers to park. Carpool if you can. You'll park your truck on the other side of the road where the aid station is, and that's where the athletes will get the handoff. Next up is aid station number 3. Aid station 3 will be located just after turning right off of 75th onto St. Vrain Road. That's right here, right after they turn right. To switch to Google Map version, just south of Hygiene, St. Vrain Road heads west. I'm going to zoom in. Right as it bends left, it turns into a dirt road over here. This is where I want your volunteers to park, on this dirt road, but don't block any driveways and don't block the road. Pull off on the side of the road. Your aid station will actually stretch along this road on St. Vrain. Okay, you'll see the markings on the locations where the bike team puts them down. Okay, with the duct tape on the ground, you'll see it. Can't miss it. Next up is aid station number 4. Aid station number 4 is located on 63rd, right before it hits the diagonal highway. This aid station specifically has very limited parking, so I encourage the captain here to park, or to encourage their team to carpool. But right here, this is 63rd and the diagonal highway. I'm going to zoom in. There's a water treatment facility just off to the west side of the road. This is where I want your aid station, right at the top of the hill on 63rd, so the athletes are going really slow. It is imperative that you do not block this driveway. The treatment facility is used all year round, 7 days a week, so make sure that you're don't let your team park in front of or have the aid station in front of that driveway. I want you to have the aid station just after the driveway, so all the bottle drops, your tables, and everything to be afterwards in the ramp onto the diagonal highway. Okay? A good place for your volunteers to park in this location is on the right-hand side of the road. As the northbound side, they can park right over here, facing the other direction. That's a great location if they are parked there. And just north of here is Tom Watson Park. That would also be a good location for them to park and then walk down. But don't let them park on this side, obstructing the aid station and blocking that driveway. Next up is aid station number 5. This is the first aid station that's only going to be hit once. And it's located on Highway 52. As the athletes are heading north on the diagonal highway, they'll turn right and they'll head east on Highway 52. At the very top of the hill, there's a little neighborhood, little driveway into the neighborhood right here, as I'm zooming in, that you'll see. And this is where I want your volunteers to park. Park up in here, in that little area, but don't obstruct the area for the community members that live in there. So pull off on the side of the road and park. Your aid station will be on this side of the road, on the south side of the road, for the athletes to access from the right-hand side. And please don't block this driveway either. So set yourself up after the intersection into the Somerset Drive intersection, so that you're not obstructing this driveway or the access into Somerset. Next up is aid station number 6, the last of the aid stations. This is the other aid station that's only hit once. As the athletes are heading south on 75th, they'll turn right on J, and that is where your aid station is located, just after they turn right. Just switch to Google Maps version. As they're heading south, this is 75th, and this is J. This little neighborhood right here is called Somerset. Or I'm sorry, it's called South Meadow Drive. I just said Somerset. This is South Meadow Drive. That's where I want your volunteers to park, up South Meadow and on Park. But don't block any driveways and don't block the road. Your aid station truck will be out here, just on the west side of South Meadow Drive, and that is where your aid station will set up at. Next, I'd like to discuss communications. At the captain's meeting, you're going to receive a cell phone number for our command center. Don't call 911. Call our command center if you need any medical assistance for an athlete or for your volunteers. Our dispatch center will have emergency personnel in it to be able to respond much quicker than if you call 911. We have dedicated emergency services just for this event. The second thing about the communication is if you're running low on supplies or if you need anything that's delivered to your aid station, you'll call the command center, they'll communicate to our supply coordinator, and they'll get that supply to you. Lastly, make sure that you think before you speak. Understand what you're going to say and the message you're going to try to communicate. Never call and communicate about an athlete by name. We don't use names on the radios, we use numbers. Athlete number 123 is at aid station 6, and we need medical assistance or we need bike sag. End of sentence. That's all you need to communicate. The command center will take it from there, and they'll communicate to who they need to. Next up, an important hint and tip is ice. How to manage ice. First thing I want to make sure is very clear. Never fill a container full of ice and then put product on top of it. Always fill the container, whether that's a trash bin or a baby pool. Fill it full of the product and then ice over the top. And make sure you put it in the shade. Ice runs out so quickly if you're not managing it carefully, so use it very, very lightly and carefully in the beginning, and taper up and then taper back down. There's a bell curve on this race, so every race has very few athletes at the beginning, a lot in the middle, and a few at the end. So save your ice for the bell curve and then come back down. Next, I want to talk about layout. The layout is very important, believe it or not. We want the athletes to know what order of the product is so that they know as they're going through the aid station what things are coming when. And it's important to always have this order. You'll have the water table first, then you'll have Gatorade, then you'll have food, which you'll have bananas, goo, and Cliff Bars. Then you'll have Gatorade again, and then water again. Shortly after that table, you'll have the portable restrooms with the bike rack that's on your truck. That bike rack is used next to the porta potties. That way the athletes have somewhere to rest their bike while they're using the restrooms. Then, 100 yards down the road is the last chance trash sign. Don't put that last chance trash sign right next to your aid station. You want to give a zone for the athletes to drop their trash, so make sure it's a ways down the road. On that topic, you're responsible for a half a mile before and a half a mile after your aid station in terms of trash. So it's important that you start early in the day, all day long, having a team, like a sub-team inside your group, doing trash. Have them take shifts amongst the other people so not everybody's doing trash all day. And walk about a quarter of a mile to a half a mile up the road, quarter of a mile backwards on the course as well, scooping up water bottles. It doesn't take long if you stay ahead of it. It's when you wait till the end of the day to pick up trash that you get into trouble. Again, keep this order in line. Next up, I want to show you a brief video. As you can see in this video, you've got athletes going through an aid station and they're communicating what they need as they go along. They'll drop a water bottle off and then they'll proceed on to the next station. Some people will grab whatever the product is as they go, and off they go and they load it into onto their bike. You'll see the volunteers are staying off the side of the road. They're not standing out in the middle of the road. And one of the important things you can do as a bike aid station is move with your athlete. You're going to see here on the next screen that the volunteers take a couple of steps in the same direction as the athletes as they're handing it off, this water. So you take a couple of steps, hand it off. That way it's not an intense grab as the athletes come through. So on that topic, I want to talk about handing it off. Anytime you're handing off a bottle, whether it's water or Gatorade, you never want to be holding it like this with your hand on the side. You want to be holding it with your hand underneath. That way as the athlete passes through, it's a takeaway from the bottom of your hand. You don't want to hand off here because as soon as the athlete's hand hits yours, there's a collision of hands and now you've got a problem. So again, hold water and Gatorade from the bottom. Another important thing to make mention is the Gatorade comes with a safety seal underneath the cap. So make sure that your volunteers are peeling off the plastic cap, then they take off the seal, and then put the cap back on for the athletes before they go on. They'll also be receiving Cliff Bars and goo. It's important that you do not open these for the athletes. Do not peel the tabs off and do not crack open this. As an athlete, it's really easy to grab with your teeth and pull it open. Same thing with the Cliff Bar. As an athlete, grab it and tear it open. Don't open those things for the athletes because the moment that you do, these little tabs are all over the road and now it's a hassle for you guys to pick it up afterwards. So leave it closed, hand it off, don't open it. Lastly is bananas. You'll receive a bunch of bananas, you'll cut them in half and you'll hand it to the athlete like this. You can see that the banana's been cut in half and that's how you're handing it off to the athlete. Again, from my experience doing this all over the country, I see a lot of aid stations live and die by these little tips and tricks. Start trash early. Trust me when I tell you, start early, picking it up, making it in piles. You'll receive instructions as to what you do with your trash at the captain's meeting. If you adhere to those standards, race management like myself have made a plan to make it easy on you. It's when you disregard those instructions that things get really complicated with trash. So start early with trash. Second tip. Take one of the portable restrooms and hide it from the athletes. Hide it behind your budget truck, hide it behind a moving truck, whatever it may be. That should be for your volunteers. Trust me when I tell you the athletes don't take very good care of their portable restrooms. Okay, without leaving a lot more detail, just take one for your volunteers and hide it behind your truck so that the athletes don't use that one. The third tip and trick, unload as you go. Don't unload your truck as you start, okay? Only take what you need at the beginning. As that bell curve starts to ramp up, then start bringing out more product. Don't break open cases, don't break open pallets until you need them. It's going to help later on. Once you're loading your truck back up, put things on pallets. Don't leave them on the floor. Put everything on a pallet. Cases of water, cases of Gatorade, cases of goo, put it on a pallet. Don't leave it on the floor of the moving truck. And lastly, have fun. Make sure that you guys have a plan to have fun with your aid station. Do a theme, dress up, bring a grill, whatever it may be to have a good time. Once you're done with your aid station, you'll bring your truck back to wherever you received it, and you'll have instructions from the captain's meeting as to what to do there. Thank you for what you guys are doing. It's a big job, and you guys have a big day ahead of you. listen to this video. The instructions that I gave you are important, and we look forward to seeing you guys out there.